All right, in this video, we're going to cover more working with exterior finish walls. Specifically, we're going to talk about panelized wall systems like composite metal panel walls or rain screens and interior wood panel walls, things like that that would have joints in them, and how we recommend modeling those at Beck. First of all, this is part 4 of our multi-wall approach video series. There's 3 previous parts that if you haven't watched, you should, to understand how we recommend modeling walls at Beck. So continuing from there, last video, we put some walls in section here, and I want to show you how I just want to keep enforcing the idea of the location line being important where it is, so that if we need to add something. So we came back and we found out that we needed to have rigid insulation added. So I'm going to go ahead and do that in the wall assembly. So we'll add a thermal layer of 1 inch, and it's going to be our rigid insulation. So we'll just do 1 inch for this example, but whatever size you actually needed, you could pick or create. So there, that gets added. We say okay, and you'll see that grows out. And then this metal panel insert will do the same thing too as well. Well, now if you had areas that didn't have insulation, you would duplicate this. In this example, I want insulation everywhere, so I'm just going to edit the one we have. So I'm going to insert another layer below it, move that down. It's also going to be a thermal layer, and it's going to be 1 inch thick. And I could have Control C the name from the previous edit, but I didn't. So we're just going to reselect it. That's a good tip if you need to copy a material and want to avoid opening the material browser. You can Control C the name and just paste it in, and that works just like picking it. One thing you want to do is make sure you rename your wall to match the overall thickness, which is part of our naming standard. So this is now 3 inch overall thickness metal panel with continuous. All right, so now you see that just reinforces why the location line is so important. That location line being set to the interior face of that wall. Finish face or core face doesn't matter in this case because they're one and the same. The core boundary and the interior finish face line up. But the point is that those will grow and shrink in alignment with this wall. Okay, so that was just preface to get into what we really want to do. So if we look at this wall in elevation, you can say, okay, well, I'm going to enable temporary view properties here. So we want to place joints on this panel. We have a family called the GM. If you search metal point on panel joint on Unify, you'll find a family called GM panel joint square. Square means that it's a rectangular shape. It doesn't have beveled edges. Why we use these instead of reveals is manifold. We can edit this family to have shape to it. If we want the reveal to have, a chamfer or a fillet, we can do that. And it also allows us to fill the joint. So we'll see that right now. So we're going to place this in our model. I've already loaded it, so it's just going to come up. You'll notice when you load this family, it's got 3 types in it. It's got the head wall trim, a metal panel joint, and a panel trim black. I'm going to use the metal panel joint. You'll see it's a face-based family, so it's looking for a face to host on. And I can place it, and if I want one horizontal, I can hit the space bar, and we'll align it up with that wood joint there, and we'll put another one there. So that does that. Let's take a look at that in 3D, see what it did there. You can see that it has cut out a reveal in that, and as well as, let's pick on it and take a look at what's in this family. So you have the choice to have joint filler or not. So right now I do have a joint filler checked. It's you can also turn the center line on and off. That's to dimension and elevation. We'll look at that. And then you have a joint material. So if we wanted a black joint, for example, we can edit this. So you can see right now I've got a sealant gray. We could duplicate this, and let's make it dark charcoal. We'll just call it charcoal. And we'll duplicate this gray and call it silicone. And we'll make it really dark for this example. And check the graphics, make sure it got darker. It sure did. You can change the identity data. Then you also have the joint depth. So that's the depth of the panel system. Then you have the joint filler inset. So this is how far from the face that joint filler sits. So if you wanted it flush, you'd put 0. If you want it to sit back, you know, an 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch, however far back makes sense in your system. You can control the joint width. And the void extension is for corners. We'll talk about that at a different time. So let's take a look at that. Now you have that beautiful looking system there. Let's launch Enscape to see how that's looking. Okay, so you can see here in Enscape that we have a nice metal panel, and you can see that joint there, and it looks really good. And you can see we've got one here on the other side that I did earlier. So this technique provides you a lot of realism. Some people like to use curtain walls for this, and if you have a big wall with lots of panels, I might even recommend that. The challenge is in section with those because the panels can't have as many different layers. So you could use a mullion for this joint and create a system. And that's not a bad approach as long as you understand some of the ins and outs. And maybe I'll do another video showing you that. But I did want to show you what we think is the preferred method. And there's a number of reasons for that. Documentation wise, you know, if we are going to elevate this thing, let me turn off my, you see, we get the center line so we can easily dimension the location of the joints. One thing we can, and you can easily, you know, adjust them. So wherever you want them to go, you can do that. You can also create them angled. So if there was a desire to have panel system like that, which is pretty difficult to do in the curtain wall tool. So this method just seems to be most flexible. Again, you do end up with a number of pieces to deal with, but they're pretty good. The other nice thing about this is you can tag these, where if I don't think you can tag a curtain wall mullion, one of those limitations. So I can tag that. And obviously this is too small an elevation to be doing that, but you can see the I think the benefit is certainly there as to, that was the type name. We don't want to use that. We want description. So whatever you need to call your joints. And now that's I can go through, and if I use my multi-category description tag, you'll see that it now knows all of those. And you can adjust that description to be whatever it needs to be. So I hope that helps. Same thing would apply. I think we do have we were messing around with some interior wood paneling. So this same technique could apply with it. So inside this, right, we have our interior wood trim, and maybe you don't want the same panel type. So let's take, and we'll use the panel trim black for this. And this is going to be infilled with black. So I'm going to use the match properties to change the other ones that I've put in here. Hard to select these things in 3D, but you can now see if you had a wood veneer that you wanted to create a panel system, you can do that same thing we're doing. And probably would work best from an elevation so that you put these things where you want, but I just wanted to show you that is a way to make these things look very realistic. Hope this helps.